If you remove human error, what do you get? You don't get a utopia, you get a dystopia. No one wants that. That's bad for business. So today we're going to be looking at 10 critical positions from 10 different games, 10 different famous Grandmasters, where they all went wrong in one move, showing the beauty of human error. 2020 is hindsight. It was painful during it. You look back, you can laugh on it, you can feel better about yourself. You know, chess is a fascinating game. It seems some weeks you can enter a flow state, you can play very, very well, and other weeks you just can't see the board. I mean, you're looking at it, but you're just not seeing it. Your brain is just like la 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 during the game. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Does anybody know what that is? Fascinating. But let's get into it. So the first game we're going to be looking at is Tigran Petrosian, the Iron Tiger, versus David Bronstein, played in the 1957 Candidates Tournament. In this position, Tigran is with the white pieces. He's not playing any defense. So what is he going to do? Black's king looks weak. What would you do? Many of you would be like, oh, my queen is under attack. I'm going to move it out of the way to b4 or a3 and then attack him later on because black's pieces are not coordinated nor developed. Well, that is. And so, yeah, you'd move the queen and go from there. However, in this position, Tigran played knight to g5 from a winning position to a losing position in one move. Beautiful. Happens to the best of us. Here, David Bronstein did indeed take the queen, and Tigran resigned. Painful at the moment. Hopefully, he looked back and laughed on it years later. Game number 2. We got Sergei Karjakin with the black pieces versus Peter Nielsen. Sergei was leading the tournament with 8.5 out of 11 points. This was the modern-day Tata Steel tournament, and it was played in the year 2005. So, it looks like it's petering out to a draw. However, what do you play in this position as black? Well, many of you would be like, okay, my rook is under attack. Let me move it somewhere not to lose it. Good job. However, Karjakin in this position played the move King G5 on move 100 and lost the game. Peter Nielsen must have been super hype. He's like, oh my goodness, this would have been a grind. Because you got to play this for a win for white because you have the two minor pieces versus the rook. But it's going to be a grueling draw at correct play. But remember, human error. It does exist as shown in this game. Game number 3 from a world championship match. By the way, this video is a rough draft to how I'm going to do the montage for the world championship match that I'm making. I already know which match I'm doing. I already have the critical moments picked out. But comment down below any improvements I could make, what you don't like, what I could do better, and I will entertain them. There's going to be some editing in those videos, like showing the board number, the round number, what tournament, yada yada. No editing in this one. No editing in most of my videos. But that one's going to be a montage, so a little bit of editing. Anyways, world championship match in the 1800s. Do you guys know these players? Mikhail Chigorin versus William Steinitz. What was Steinitz famous for? His rook endgames, and a lot more. I mean, it's a world championship match. They're pretty good. So white is winning in this position. What do you do? Well, many of you would be like, oh, I'm just going to take the pawn. Right, you would be. At this point, the best black would have is to take the knight, take the bishop, and just be in a losing position because no one is stopping that guy. Black's going to need to sack a piece or trade off into a bishop versus rook, which actually we reviewed yesterday. Look at us go. Watch that video if you haven't, if you want. So, what did Chigorin play in this position? Chigorin moved his bishop to b4 to attack the rook. Do you see why that's a blunder? What is this bishop doing on d6 that's so important? It is guarding h2. So you see, after the move bishop to b4, black does not need to move this rook. Maybe he was looking at, I don't even know what he was looking at. He wasn't looking at the board. Not in flow state, he was not. So we get rook takes h2, and he just resigned. Reason being, king g1, rook dg2 is checkmate on the board in 2. So he missed a mate in 2. What do we got next? That doesn't look like a person. No. This is Deep Fritz versus Vladimir Kramnik. This was in 2006 when the dystopia has not yet arrived with the stock of fish. So what should black do? Well, what black needs to do in this position is move his king to attack the knight. But it's not so common you have a white knight on f8, right? So what did Kramnik do in this position? He actually went to e3 with his queen. He's like, I'm just going to trade off. Maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll back rank checkmate white. He's like, I have mate in 2 if you move your queen. And Stockfish in the year 2006 was good enough to see the move queen to h7 checkmate, right? You can't checkmate your opponent in 2 if they have checkmate in 1. So, man versus machine. Crazy. Who's next? We got Kramnik again. However, this side on the favorable side of human error. He's versing Wang Hao. This was played in the year 2013. Wang Hao, a very good grandmaster. And it's a roughly equal position, right? You reached a roughly equal position against Kramnik. Respect. How do we go from here? Well, in this position, Wang Hao played rook to a2. Why is this a blunder? Calculate. He missed a fork in 2 moves. The move, queen to b8. Reason being, the king is in check and its only escape square is to h7, at which point Kramnik goes queen to b1, picks up a whole rook. That is GG's. That is the end of the game. Fascinating. Now, who do we get? We get Dimitar Donchev versus Vasilin Topalov. 2 very good grandmasters. What should you do in this position? Well, in this position, oh, I want to back it up a little bit. I am so sorry. In this position, black blundered with the move queen to h5. Why is that a blunder? Well, it allows the knight to come to e5. You might be like, okay, I understand. That's a good square for the knight, right? It's an outpost, cuts off the bishop, offers some trades. But it's even worse than that. This queen cannot go back to guard the other knight. You might be like, why does that matter? Well, the best move is indeed taking, which he does do. But you don't take the bishop back. How do you win? You win by going knight to h6, an absolute cold shower. And white just won a whole queen. Because black is in check, you're going to take the queen if he takes the knight. And if he takes the knight with the queen, you have a bishop on c1 that could take the queen on h6. Hopeless. So very fascinating. All right, we're going to look over 10. This one, we're going to look at the whole game because it's only 8 moves. It's an 8-move game. This was played in 2023 in the World Rapid Chess Championship, the best of the best. We got Surya Shekhar Ganguly versus Mukhidin Mamedinov. So, Ganguly plays the move e4. We get e5. We get knight c6, knight f3, knight c6, d4, a scotch. Okay, it could be played at top level, especially in rapid. We get takes, queen f6. They say don't bring your queen out too early, but we're getting our queen out early in a World Rapid Championship match? Amazing. Must be theory. It is. It's a line. Everything is a line. The knight goes back to f3, the best move. What do you think black plays here? Well, the point of the line is to go bishop to b4 check, inducing the move pawn c3 so that the knight can't move to c3. So the pawn does move to c3, gaining a tempo on the bishop. We get bishop to c5, retreating. It looks like 500 ELO chess. And unfortunately, in this game, for the white pieces, it was. We get bishop to d3. You're really supposed to go bishop to e2 to guard the knight. Why? Because black's intention is to go knight e5. And now knight e5, you don't want to lose the bishop, but you kind of have to, right? You don't want them to take and damage your structure either. So here, again, you could play queen e2 or bishop c2, whichever you want, or bishop e2, whichever you want. But in this position, Ganguly's like, okay, I'm going to take the knight. He's going to take back. I'm going to go knight to d2. This is a fine position. What did he miss? He missed queen takes f2. That is insane. They have more time than they started with. I would assume that's due to increment, right? That's how that works. A battery checkmate on f2. Fascinating. Mamedinov must have been extremely hyped to have moved his queen out early and play into this line. And keep in mind, he was an IM. I think now he's a GM, but he was rated like 150 points lower than Ganguly. I bet he would not have imagined he would checkmate his opponent in 8 moves. I think they did play it out, so that's amazing. Respect. Unless he didn't see it, which is... Oh, I guess he didn't see it. Yeah, he took on e5. Yeah, he didn't see it. That is wild. All right, what is this position? We already looked at that. So, game number something. Is it 8? I think so. We have Alexander Morozevich versus Boris Gelfand. I hope you know these players. Great players from the past. The year is 2009. And okay, Morozevich is pressing the advantage, right? He has a bishop versus knight. His rooks are very nicely placed. What should black play in this position? Well, black needs to arguably add defense to the pawn, maybe repurpose the knight. You can also get the king out with g6, but okay, knight f6 may be a good move. What did he play? He's like, I need to be active. I'm going to go rook d6. I'm going to check you. I'm going to do everything of the sort. Why is this one a blunder? Well, in this position, you can win a piece. See, this pawn is not actually protecting the knight. You might be like, why? Well, look at the x-ray. Look at the pin. So in this position, Morozevich played rook takes e4, that is, and Boris Gelfand resigned. Point is, pawn takes, you just win a rook. So, a cold shower, but maybe the end of the day it was like +2, and maybe he saved himself some time because he maybe wasn't going to win, but he could have held to a draw. It was very positional. All right, game 9. We have Anatoly Karpov versus Garry Kasparov, the year 1987, a world championship match, the absolute best of the best. In this position, Kasparov played the move rook to a1. Why is this a blunder? It's not a blunder because of taking the rook, right? Then you get checkmated in one move. So what did he miss? The move he missed is queen takes g6 check. Now wherever the king moves, you can take the rook. What's the difference? The queen backwards guards g4, so there's no mate. You just lost a rook. He resigned. Unbelievable. Now we have a fascinating one. We have David Bronstein with the white pieces versus Botvinnik with the black pieces. Botvinnik, great Dutch player. That's about all I know of him. But he's playing with the black pieces. We have a knight versus pawn endgame. They say do play these like pawn endgames when it's just a knight on the board. And it is equal. What would you guys do in this position? I would argue many of you would go check. The king moves. You go check. You stop the pawn from promoting, and then you just go somewhere like so, just winning the pawn, right? And this will be a draw because you're going to need to sack the knight. They're going to collect some pawns. You're going to collect some pawns. Everybody has a great day. But what did he do? Well, instead what he did was go king c2. He's like, all right. See, this is like being too strong for your own good. He's like, the king's going to come to f3. Then I'll move my knight to f7, and I get my checks in, right? Because if push, you go knight e5, the king moves, and you go push, or knight here, and you stop the pawn from promoting, and it's the same thing. You have to be so good to think like that, and he was too good for his own good. Does that make sense? I think so. So what did he miss? He missed the move king to g3, diagonally evading any knight routes to the king to give a check. So in this position, he just resigned. Why did he resign? Well, you're basically just making a queen. You're going to f2. Right, knight e6 no longer works because we get push, threatening to promote. There's no checks. So he goes king d2. We get king f2, and you just lose the game because the pawn is getting through to make a queen. So if you blunder, don't feel bad about yourself. In fact, I had a week where I just wasn't seeing the board. For example, in this position, how do you win? This was my game, game 11. So I'm not considering myself a grandmaster from the past. Don't worry. How do you win this game? You just go knight takes bishop and checkmate them on g7. What did I do? What did my big brain think of? Knight takes d6. Horrible. I was like, checkmate. You know when you think you have a checkmate and then the game doesn't end? Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was looking at the board and didn't see a piece on the board. Queen on a2 just takes. I went on to lose an embarrassing game. It happens. I went on to lose like 20 more embarrassing games. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you as always for watching. I think I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Boom.